who's actually, can you raise your hand, who wants to participate in the workshop? And do you have your laptops with you? The thing is that I can only just very briefly show you a list of software that you can use. It depends very much on what kind of computer you have. I see most of you are using Apple, which makes it very easy to create encrypted email, but there's also software for Android, for your iPhone. And then it's really very much, I will not guide you through the installation process because it's really very straightforward. I will just provide you with a link, and then you can access this and start downloading and installing the software, which results in you being able to generate a key set, a public key and a private key, as I explained a little bit. And this will be quite seamlessly incorporated into your email program if you use Apple Mail, for example. So
I'm not completely sure about the coffee aspect.
I'm sorry.
I don't know actually. Let's hope so, but I'm not sure. And remember, if you get a coffee, don't come back with it. And even I see bottles there. Please put them down. We are allowed. I'm sorry, but you are not.
So basically, okay, sorry. Then no coffee.
No coffee inside.
On postdigitalcultures.ch/crypto, you will find the two little links, which will lead you to this site, which is not particularly beautiful, but it has all the software that you need. And everyone is using Mac, right? I don't see a single PC here. You should start using Linux. Are you using Linux? Okay, get out. Okay, so the Mac users just scroll down to Mac and install GBG Tools, which is the standard Mac software for encrypting email. It has recently been dropped from support after the update to Yosemite, so right now it's a better software. And if you start using it, there has been discussion that it might actually become something that you have to pay for a little bit, which I think is okay. Some people do that. So this again is to say that GBG is not open source. Yeah? This is a software that's provided by a company. It's for free, and it's part of the Apple software license group, which means that we have to put a certain amount of trust into this corporation to say that they're not abusing the information or they don't have means of accessing it. But there's, as I said, it's not open source, so there's not a 100% degree of transparency. So I will give you a couple of minutes and get a coffee myself. So you can start downloading the software and installing it. It's very straightforward. You download the DMG as you do with every other kind of software on your Mac. Click on it, follow the instructions, and that should guide you through a very simple, like 2-3 minute process. For those of you who are using other kinds of operating systems, you will find all the necessary tools for encrypting mail here too, for Windows, Linux, or for Android phones, for example. You can use K9 Mail with APG, which is what I use. It's also very simple to install. And remember that the key system that you generate is something that is unique for you. And you have the possibility to afterwards publish the public key on the internet or upload it to a so-called key server. There are many key servers run by universities, for example, or by institutions who work with cryptology. And it's something that is uniquely identifies you. And if you create a password, create a sufficiently long password, which is very complex. It should not be a simple password, which is your name or anything else. It should ideally be a sequence of letters and numbers and special characters that makes no sense. The more random it is, the better. And it should be, I think, well, at least 10, 12, 15 characters long. And the only other thing I recommend before I go for a coffee is choose a key that's 2048-bit strong, not just the 1024-bit. You will be asked how long your key should be. It means it's double the strength. Okay, so I'll be back for questions in a second. What I didn't say is, if you're very fast, you can also start downloading the Tor browser bundle, which you will find here on Tor project, which is basically a very simple set of software that will provide you with a browser that provides you with anonymous and secure internet browsing. So you can use it as an alternative to Chrome or Firefox or whatever it is you're using. And it uses the Tor protocol, which I will explain in a second, but I'll give you a minute right now. So I see Elise is doing well.
how's it going?
So who already has a pair of keys generated? Yeah, one person, two people. I mean, the thing is about the bit length of the key, you can also use up to 4096 bits. Just use the strongest one you want to have. So for those of you who have already created a pair of keys, maybe with the person next to you, you can start exchanging it and emailing to each other. Because it should be part of your signature now and the email that you send, so you can send each other an email which will automatically import the key into your GBG keychain. And then in the mail program you will have a small little symbol on the right when you compose an email, which is a lock, and another one which basically is like a check sign, which means you can sign the email. Because that's also what it means is cryptography, it always depends on two people sending encrypted email to each other. You can't send someone an encrypted email who doesn't also use encryption. So the idea is that with every email that I, for example, send out, I attach my GBG signature to it, which is something that I publish my key. It's also, you can put it on your website, for example, or upload it to a key server. You can just make it part. It's basically just a block of letters on random symbols, which is your crypto key. And so Elise Lammer, for example, now has we're gonna try. So, you can see. Here we go. So you can see on the top right, there's this little sign which means my email is signed. And next to it there's a little lock. So if everything, I should be able to send an email to Elise which is encrypted, if I have her key. But maybe you send me an email first. Okay, you see now Elise has sent me an encrypted email using my public key, which I can unlock now using my secret key. So you can see now it's signed with a still unknown key, which I've accepted because I haven't assigned it to Elise yet in my address book, but you can store all the keys in your mail program, which is the little program called the GVG keychain. And it's encrypted, so now only I can read this email. It's basically what Elise just did is not send me a postcard, but a letter that is closed, and I have to have a little tool which only I can open it. You see, it's really very straightforward and nothing to actually have a big problem with. And the Tor browser bundle, has anyone Tor running it? Did you install Tor already? So you can also see that it's very, you have this little program called Vidalia, which basically starts anyone else having this problem? Okay. Yeah? I don't really know what the problem is in that case, but usually, basically how Tor works is that it creates an onion around your internet connection, like a system of many different layers, by rerouting your traffic from here to there, to there, to there, basically making it untraceable back to you. So, I'm sorry, there's music. Yeah, I was just informed to let you know that you should not use Gmail and Facebook. I mean, we should all probably not use Gmail and Facebook anyway, but you shouldn't use the Tor browser to access those, even though Facebook has made a Tor site available recently. Yeah. So Tor is something that is, among other people, maintained by this guy Jacob Applebaum, you might have heard of. He's living in Berlin and working closely with people like Glenn Greenwald and Laura Poitras, who are the two journalists working with Edward Snowden. And so Jake is someone that you can actually, if you're in Berlin, quite easily contact. He's around, and he's one of the maintainers of the Tor project. Recently, the Tor has come under some scrutiny because there have been attacks, because people have been trying, of course. Tor also means that it's possible to use it for criminal activities. You know, you use the Tor browser also to access the deep web, which means Silk Road, which means Bitcoin payments for drugs or anything. But basically, you can just use it to ensure anonymous web browsing. But this is, of course, why authorities have started to attack Tor, because whenever they don't know what's going on, it's apparently very interesting. So I have no idea why my Tor isn't working at the moment, but doesn't really matter actually. You can see it's a very straightforward, it looks like any other web browser. In some respects it's a little bit more simple, it doesn't look as fancy, and it's a little bit slower, but that's something that you will get used to within an hour or two, and then don't realize the lag anymore. As for your mobile phones, for Mac you don't really have that many, or for iPhones you don't really have that many options. I think it's quite hard actually to encrypt mail on the iPhone, but there is something called Signal, which can be used for encrypted phone calls actually, and as for messaging you can use Telegram, WhatsApp or Threema. WhatsApp just recently acquired the company Text Secure, which is a text messaging system that you can also install, which will create end-to-end encryption. And they're using this protocol now for end-to-end encryption, only for Android so far, but soon also for iOS. But as I said, this is not open source, so ultimately we have to believe them that they actually don't access our data or do anything with it or don't have a backdoor in it. Any more questions? Otherwise, okay. Who has already successfully sent an encrypted email or received one? 1, 2, 3. If you really want to make sure that it's absolutely secure, I recommend you don't use Apple Mail, but you install something like Thunderbird, which is it's from the Mozilla Foundation. It's an open source mail client that is cross-platform. You can use it in every operating system, Linux, Mac, or Windows. It's a very good software, and you can use it with Enigmail, which is something like GBG tools, but for Thunderbird. And this is really the only absolutely open source and thus certifiably secure thing you can use. You see that on the website that I showed you, there is lots of other things that you can use also just to install in your Chrome browser. For example, you can if you don't already have it, install Adblock or HTTPS everywhere. These are all little plugins that you can use for your browser, and I suggest you just install all of them and play around with it. Adblock basically just, what you're going to see is that you're not going to see any ads anymore, but it also means that it hides you from certain advertising trackers on your net, because you leave cookies everywhere you go on the net, and with them you become the victim of targeted advertising, for example. I have actually forgotten how advertising on the internet looks like, and I'm always very surprised when I look at other people's computers and see how much advertising there is. So I can assure you it's a very relaxing experience not to have advertising in your browser anymore. So I suggest what I use is Adblock Plus, HTTPS everywhere, and Ghostery. And these are things that don't require any kind of configuration. You just install it, and it starts working immediately. You can configure it if you want, but it comes with a set of servers that it's blocking anyways. So it's really very straightforward and simple. Ghostery. There's this program called Torbirdie, which is a little thing you can also use for Thunderbird, which will then already also send your email through the Tor system, which makes it even, so you can encrypt it, but you can also send it through an anonymous connection. Because Samuel just ran into this problem, I mention again that this of course does only work, what we installed now, the GBG tools, only works with Apple Mail. It won't work just with a Gmail account in a browser. Well, you can use it, but you have to use the mail program. Of course it works with Gmail, it works with any kind of email address and any kind of service. But it doesn't work in the browser. It works only with the mail application of Apple or the Thunderbird application. There are ways of encrypting email if you use Gmail in the browser, say for example. It's a little bit more complicated, but as you can see, it's about encryption works basically by scrambling a message, by creating noise. There are also ways, for example, which are used very frequently by people traveling, for example, to China, where sometimes at the airport you have your computer taken away from you and it's quite certain that people are tampering with it. And I recently heard about a very nice way of making sure if someone has tampered with your computer, which is by applying glitter nail polish to the screws, because the patterns created by glitter nail polish are very random and very hard to reproduce in the same way. So you can create a very unique pattern of glitter nail polish on your computer screws if you want to make sure that nobody's opening them. It looks nice too. Something else that we haven't really spoken about is that there are, of course, also like alternatives to Dropbox and and Google Drive. So you can always, of course, use the BitTorrent protocol. I guess lots of you know what BitTorrent is. Who knows what BitTorrent is? So it's a peer-to-peer protocol which doesn't store the data on one single computer, that is one single server where you download it from, but it's shared by a certain software protocol that lots of people seed it, as it is called, and you can share information like that. So this is basically where you get your movies and music and stuff like this. But you can also use it to, I don't know, share a PDF of your latest book that you've written, if you use this protocol. And there are some open source tools, quite a few actually, that you can use to share data with people that you work with, people that you're friends with, that are not Dropbox or Google Drive. One, for example, being OwnCloud. You see, it's also platform independent, so you can use it whatever system you want. And apart from that, I mean, given that we talk about tools here, but I think it's most important also is to talk about platforms. So I can really only urge everyone to use Linux. I've been using Linux seamlessly for the past 15 years. I also work with Mac. I like Mac. It's a fantastic product. But if you actually want to work with your computer as you do every day all the time and be responsible for what you do with it, install Linux. You can do a double install. You can use it on your Mac as a second operating system. You don't have to change anything. It will run seamlessly side by side, but you actually have access to your computer. It's basically like, what this is basically like owning a car where you can't open the hood or fix anything, you know? I personally don't really like Ubuntu, but Ubuntu is the most popular Linux variant that you can use. It's very easy to install. It's also just click by click, and it works on PCs, but it also works on Apple. You can do a double install, so you can have two operating systems if you're afraid to switch completely. But Linux is also the software that is actually used to keep the internet running. It's for free. It's community maintained. It's continually improved by thousands and thousands of people all over the planet who contribute to this project. It will stay free. It doesn't cost any money. And I think this is a technological situation that we should strive for, that not only information stays free, but also the tools are something that we develop in a democratic and politically responsible way. Okay, as you can see, the free Wi-Fi offered here in the Palais is blocking me from accessing another website that I wanted to show you. Because it's about illegal file sharing, which it is not. It's peer-to-peer file sharing. It's called BitTorrent Sync, which is also a Dropbox alternative. It's a free piece of software that you can use on your phone. Doesn't matter if it's an iPhone or Android, but you can also use it on your computer. It uses the BitTorrent protocol to share files with people you work with. I've tried all of them, they work really nicely. The problem really is that so many people rely on infrastructures like Dropbox because they work very well and they're very popular, but it's very easy to actually switch to an alternative, and you should do it. As you can see, there's also, if you want to install Linux on your MacBook, Ubuntu itself provides all the necessary handbooks for it. It's very easy and step-by-step instructions to follow. It should take you maybe half an hour.
Any more questions with the crypto party? So I guess in any case you can always have a look at this manual that you can download on our website. So it's www.postdigitalculture/crypto.
Very simple to install. And remember that the key system that you generate is something that is unique for you. And you have the possibility to afterwards publish the public key on the internet or uploaded to a so-called key server. There are many key servers run by universities, for example, or by institutions who work with cryptology, and it's something that is uniquely identifies you. And if you create a password, create a sufficiently long password, which is very complex. It should not be a simple password, which is your name or anything else. It should ideally be a sequence of letters and numbers and special characters that makes no sense. The more random it is, the better. And it should be, I think, well, at least 10, 12, 15 characters long. And the only other thing I recommend before I go for a coffee is choose a key that's 2048-bit strong, not just a 1024-bit. You will be asked how long your key should be. It means it's double the strength. Okay, so I'll be back for questions in a second. Okay, some people do that. So this again is to say that GBG is not open source. Yeah? This is a software that's provided by a company. It's for free, and it's part of the Apple software license group, which means that we have to put a certain amount of trust into this corporation to say that they're not abusing the information or they don't have means of accessing it. But there's, as I said, it's not open source, so there's not a 100% degree of transparency. So I will give you a couple of minutes and get a coffee myself. So you can start downloading the software and installing it. It's very straightforward. You download the DMG as you do with every other kind of software on your Mac. Click on it, follow the instructions, and that should guide you through a very simple, like 2-3 minute process. For those of you who are using other kinds of operating systems, you will find all the necessary tools for encrypting mail here too, for Windows, Linux, or for Android phones, for example. You can use K9 mail with APG, which is what I use. It's also who's actually, can you raise your hand, who wants to participate in the workshop? And do you have your laptops with you? The thing is that I can only just very briefly show you a list of software that you can use. It depends very much on what kind of computer you have. I see most of you are using Apple, which makes it very easy to create encrypted email, but there's also software for Android, for your iPhone. And then it's really very much, I will not guide you through the installation process because it's really very straightforward. I will just provide you with a link, and then you can access this and start downloading and installing the software, which results in you being able to generate a key set, a public key and a private key, as I explained a little bit. And this will be quite seamlessly incorporated into your email program if you use Apple Mail, for example. So
I'm not completely sure about the coffee aspect.
I'm sorry.
I don't know actually. Coffee. Let's hope so, but I'm not sure. And remember, if you get a coffee, don't.
What I didn't say is, if you're very fast, you can also start downloading the Tor browser bundle, which you will find here on Tor project, which is basically a very simple set of software that will provide you with a browser that provides you with anonymous and secure internet browsing. So you can use it as an alternative to Chrome or Firefox or whatever it is you're using. And it uses the Tor protocol, which I will explain in a second, but I'll give you a minute right now. So I see Elise is doing well.
Come back with it, and even I see butters there, please put them down. We are allowed, I'm sorry, but you are not.
So basically, okay, sorry, then no coffee.
No coffee inside.
On postdigitalcultures.ch/crypto you will find the two little links which will lead you to this site, which is not particularly beautiful, but it has all the software that you need. And everyone is using Mac, right? I don't see a single PC here. You should start using Linux. Are you using Linux? Okay, get out. Okay, so the Mac users just scroll down to Mac and install GBG Tools, which is the standard Mac software for encrypting email. It has recently been dropped from support after the update to Yosemite, so right now it's a better software. And if you start using it, there has been discussion that it might actually become something that you have to pay for a little bit, which I think is